We will continue our discussion on problem 12-8 class. So the question in problem 12-8 is to compute for the amount of merchandise purchased from outside vendors contained in the ending inventory of the branch. So this tells us that in problem 12-8, the inventories of the branch came from two sources. The uh, sorry, we'll start with problem 12-11. 12-11, at the end of 2016, what is the adjusted balance in Simon's allowance for overvaluation in branch inventory account? And again, it's important for me that you always remember what it means if you are asked to solve for the adjusted balance of the allowance account. So if the question asks for the adjusted balance of the allowance, that simply means you are being asked to determine the markup on the ending inventory of the branch. If you're asked for the adjusted balance simply represents the markup on the ending inventory of the branch. Now let's try to go over the problem if the ending inventory of the branch is already given. Simon Company always ships merchandise to a branch outlet at a 30% markup above cost. During 2016, this branch received 182,000 in such shipments, while also acquiring goods from outside vendors at cost of 96,000. Half of the branch's December 31, 2016 inventory of 57,200 came from home office acquisition. So meaning class, the problem already gives you the ending inventory of the branch. Okay? So how much is the ending inventory of the branch? It is 57,200. Now, why will our answer, class, not simply be to divide 57,200 by 130% and multiply it by 30%? Where did I get the 30%? The 30% is the given in the problem describing the amount of markup on the shipments made by the home office to the branch. So again, the question is, we understand that if you're asked to determine the adjusted balance of the allowance, that is simply the same as being asked for the amount of markup on the ending inventory. And since the ending inventory is already given, why is our answer not simply 57,200 divided by 130% times 30%? And the reason is not the entire 57,200 has a markup. How do we know that not the entire 57,200 has a markup? It's because the problem tells us that half of the 57,200 came from the home office. Only one half came from the home office. What must be the scenario, class? What must be the scenario so that the solution is to simply divide 57,200 by 130% and multiply it by 30%? That would be the solution if the scenario was that the entire ending inventory came from the home office. Because if that were the case, then the entire ending inventory has an embedded markup. But in this case, only one half came from the home office. As previously mentioned, for goods acquired from outside suppliers or vendors, they are always at cost. Whatever amount we give up to acquire those merchandise is the cost that will be considered or recorded for those inventories. Only those coming from the home office will have an embedded markup. Okay, so the solution here is actually very simple. Also, you'll just have to determine the portion that came from the home office, and it's even made simple in the problem class. The problem tells us that half of the 57,200 came from the home office. So it is only one half of the 57,200 that has a markup. How much is one half of 57,200? 28,600. Okay. So this is now the portion of our ending inventory that came from the home office. But that's not the answer because we are not looking for the portion that came from the home office. We are looking for the amount of markup on this ending inventory. So what do? We divide the 28,600 by 130%, and that will give you how much? 22,000. Is that the answer? No, that is still the cost of the true cost of the goods coming from the home office. That is still part of our ending inventory. And what are we being asked of? We are asked for the markup. Okay? So if the build price was 28,600 and we have already computed that the true cost is 22,000, then that means the markup is 6,600. Or how else can we get 6,600? You multiply the 22,000 with the markup rate of 30%. And that should give you 6,600. Okay. Possible question for this problem. What is the true cost of the ending inventory of the branch? What are you going to do? Simply remove the markup. And how much is the markup? 6,600. How much was the total inventory based on the records of the branch? 57,200. But again, we know that that is not at the true cost. So if you're asked for the true cost, what you do? Simply remove the markup. And since we have already solved for the markup, all you have to do is to deduct 6,600 from 57,200 and you would get 50,600. Okay. Other alternative questions. How much of the ending inventory came from outside suppliers? And very easy. Also one half. Okay, so one half of 57,200 would be 28,600. Okay, so when we say that the true cost of the inventory of the branch is 50,600, the composition is actually 28,600 coming from outside vendors and 22,000 coming from the home office. Okay. But again, why was our solution in problem 12-11 made simpler, class? Because we understood what was asked. If you're asked for the adjusted balance, if you're asked for the adjusted balance of the allowance account, that is simply the markup on the ending inventory. Very important to remember that, class. Okay. By the way, I've already asked what's the true cost of the branch inventory. Our answer was 50,600. Alternative way for that question to be asked, class, is that how much is the inventory of the branch as far as the home office is concerned? Because if the question asks from the perspective of the home office, then you are asked for the true cost. Okay, how much is the inventory of the branch as far as the home office is concerned? How much is the inventory of the branch to be included in the inventory of the company as a whole? If the question is asked that way, then you are asked for the true cost of the branch inventory. Okay, so please remember. Understanding the question would be 50% already of the problem solving process, class. Understanding the question is very important. Okay, so again, possible questions. How much is the true cost of branch inventory? That is the same as how much is the cost of the inventory as far as the home office is concerned. How much of the inventory of the branch will be included in the inventory of the company as a whole. If it's from the perspective of the home office, if it's the perspective of the company as a whole, then you're asked for the true cost of the inventory of the branch. Okay, so please remember those concepts. Let's proceed to problem 12-12. Because I hope you can say when you went over problem 12-12 that this is a very familiar problem. This is a problem, a very similar problem to a problem included in the multiple choice questions in chapter 11. And in the discussion in that problem, we emphasize the importance of knowing the importance of the last sentence in the problem, which is that closing entries have not yet been made. And when we discussed the similar problem to this one, class, what did we say was the significance of that sentence? If closing entries have not yet been made, what does that mean? That the branch profit or loss has not yet been recognized. Okay, and that matters because we know that profit will increase the reciprocal accounts while branch loss will decrease the reciprocal accounts. The answer would be different if closing entries have already been prepared because that means you will have to add the profit or deduct the loss in trying to determine the balance of your reciprocal accounts in trying to determine the balance of your home office account or your investment in branch. Now, what is asked in problem 12-12? Again, very similar to one problem we discussed in uh, chapter 11. Okay, so primary difference here is that the question here is to determine the balance of the home office account. And again, since closing entries have not yet been made, there is no need for us to compute for the profit or loss of the branch. So all we have to monitor would be the investments and withdrawals made by the home office. So what are the investments made by the home office in this problem? Number one would be the shipment of merchandise. Because if you can recall in the problem in chapter 11, there was a shipment of merchandise and a transfer of an equipment. Okay, but here only a transfer of merchandise. So perhaps the challenge here would be to determine what amount will be entered in the reciprocal accounts. Is it the cost of the 60,000 or is it the billed price of the 90,000? And the answer is that it is the billed price. Okay, so when the branch receives the shipment, what would be the entry in the books of the branch? The entry would be debit shipments from home office at 90,000 and credit home office for 90,000. Again, the branch does not know of the true cost. It is only aware of the price billed by the home office. And as far as the branch is concerned, the billed price would be the cost to the branch. But just to be comprehensive, class, what would have been the entry in the books of the home office for the shipment? Debit, obviously, investment in branch. The credit here would be a credit to shipments to branch. And as what we have discussed before, shipments to branch is always at cost. So the credit to shipments to branch would be 60,000. And to balance out your entry, you will have to have another credit to allowance for overvaluation in the amount of 30,000. Okay, but one thing is clear, the amount that enters your reciprocal accounts would be the billed price. Okay? So as of this point, the balance of our home office account is 90,000. The second sentence, during the initial year, the home office pays 17,000 in expenses for the branch. Again, assignment of expenses, entry in the books of the branch, debit, expenses and credit, home office. We treat this as an investment transaction because this is an expense of the branch that is shouldered or that was paid by the home office. Entry in the books of the home office, debit, investment in branch and credit, expenses. Okay, so obviously that will affect the balance of the home office account. The branch sells 80%. We will not consider this one because this would have only been relevant in the computation of the profit class. However, the remittance here of 70,000 would be relevant because we will treat this as a withdrawal transaction. What is the entry for the cash remittance in the books of the branch? Debit, home office, and credit, cash. There is a debit to home office because we treat this as a withdrawal transaction. Okay? And then books of the home office entry would be debit, cash because it received the cash from the branch, and credit, investment in branch. So those would be the three things that would be relevant here. The shipment of merchandise in the amount of 90,000 and then the 17,000 expenses less the cash remittance of 70,000. So what will that be? Because 107 minus 70 will give you 37,000. Okay. Let's proceed to problem 12-13. The question here is on LAMP's financial statements for this period. What is the appropriate cost of goods sold figure? Because LAMP here is the home office. Okay. So we are asked for the balance of the cost of goods sold from whose perspective? From the perspective of the home office. And if the question asks from the perspective of the home office, what does that mean? You're asked to determine the true cost of goods sold. Okay, but actually this problem is very simple. Inventory costing 72,000 is shipped to this branch at the transfer price of 100,000. Okay, the problem, sorry, it's not a problem, but the problem for the teacher class, if you already know the point of the question, is that you will have to ignore a lot of information. For example, we will have to ignore the 100,000 because we know that we are only concerned of the true cost. Okay? So we can just ignore the 100,000. This is not a good problem to illustrate or to demonstrate the new concepts for chapter 12. But nonetheless, let's just answer problem 12-13. Okay? Freight is an additional 6,000. The branch sells 70% of this inventory for 110,000. We do not even have to care about the 110,000 because we are simply asked for the cost of goods sold and remits 70,000 in cash to the home office. Okay, again, this will not be relevant. That portion of the problem would have been relevant if you were asked how much is the balance of the home office account. Perhaps we will do that just to make the problem interesting. Okay, but class, the problem already tells us that we were able to sell 70%. So we already know the portion or the percentage that will go to our cost of goods sold. Okay, so how much was the true cost of the goods that were given by the home office by lab? 72,000. Okay, and we were able to sell 70%, correct? Okay, and just to simplify our solution, we will just add directly the freight in of 6,000. So the total cost, including freight for the goods received from the home office would be how much? 78,000. Okay, and then you get 70%. How much is 70% of 78,000? 54,600. Then that would be already your answer. Okay. And just to complicate the problem so that we will be able to practice class. First question, compute for the branch profit. Everyone, please do that in your seats. Branch profit, where do we begin? Sales. Branch profit, we begin with sales. How much was the sales of the branch class? 110,000. How do we know? That was the price for which the 70% goods were sold. Okay. 110,000. Then next, what do we deduct from our sales? We deduct our cost of goods sold. Are we going to deduct the 54,600? No, because the 54,600 is the cost of goods sold as far as the home office is concerned. What are you being asked right now? To solve for the branch profit. So you need to solve for the cost of goods sold as far as the branch is concerned. So what will you be using? You should be using 100,000. Okay, but do not forget to add the 6,000 freight. So the total inventory of the branch, as far as the branch is concerned, is 106,000. Were we able to sell the entire 106,000? No, we were only able to sell 70%. How much is 70% of 106,000? That would be 74,200. Am I correct? 74,200. So our sales is 110,000. Our cost of goods sold, as far as the branch is concerned, is 74,200. Then that would mean that our gross profit is 35,800. Is that correct, class? 35,800. A final question for problem 12-13. 12-13, how much is the adjusted balance of the allowance for overvaluation account at the end of the year? How much is the adjusted balance of the allowance for overvaluation at the end of the year? I'll give you 2 minutes. Shout out if you already have the answer. Plus 3 points to the first exam for the first one to give the answer. Just try. How much? Not 19. Adjusted balance. Adjusted. The problem? 13. Still in problem 13. Adjusted balance of the allowance for overvaluation. Answer is no one? 8,400. Where did we get 8,400? Again, understand the question. If the question asks for the adjusted balance of the allowance for overvaluation, what does that mean? Ask for the markup on the ending inventory. Okay, how much is the ending inventory? Uh, the ending inventory is 30%, correct? Okay, and then how much was the total class? How much was the total markup? The total markup is 28,000. Where did we get the 28,000? The cost of 72 and the transfer price or the build price of 100. So the total build price is, the total markup is 28,000. And what will happen to this total markup? This will either go to your cost of goods sold or to your ending inventory. How much of the markup will go to the cost of goods sold? Equivalent to the portion that was sold. How much of the markup will go to the ending inventory? Equivalent to the portion that was not sold. How much was not sold, class, percentage wise? 30%. So that means you were not able to realize 30% of the total markup. How much was the total markup? 28,000. How much was unsold? 30%. 30% times 28,000 will give you 8,400. Where will that go? That will go to your ending inventory. Okay? So 28,000 minus 8,400, class, how much will that be? 19,600. What does that mean? What does that represent? That represents the markup on your cost of goods sold. How much was the true cost of goods sold we computed earlier, class? 54,600. How much was the branch cost of goods sold we computed in computing the branch income, class? Pila to, class? 74,200. How much is the difference between the 74,200 and the 54,600? 19,000. Because their difference is simply the markup, class. Okay? Let's proceed to problem 12-14. A branch operation buys most of its inventory from outside parties. However, this year the home office transferred merchandise costing 50,000 to the branch for 80,000. Plus, if you're asked, how much is the markup rate based on cost for this shipment? Based on cost. Based on cost. Percentage. Uh, how much? 60%. How did we get 60%? The cost is 50, the build price is 80. So the markup is 30,000. 30,000 divided by the cost of 50, the markup rate based on cost is 60%. At the end of the year, 20% of this merchandise was still held by the branch. Okay? Class, you have a markup of 30,000. When will this 30,000 be considered earned? When will this 30,000 markup be considered realized? Only when these goods are sold to outside parties. Okay, remember there's a question, how much is the adjustment? If you're asked for the adjustment to the allowance, what does that mean? You're asked to determine the amount of markup that is already realized, or you're simply asked to determine the markup on the cost of goods sold. But what's the realization process? When do we consider the allowance earned? Di ba I told you that the allowance account is the same as an unearned income account, which is a liability, and it will only be removed once it is earned. And how are they earned? Only when the goods shipped by the home office are sold by the branch to outside parties. Okay? So the total markup on the shipment is 30,000. The 30,000 could be considered as wholly earned if the entire merchandise was already sold. But is that the case in this problem? What happened in this problem? 20% of this merchandise was still held by the branch. So that means, percentage wise, how much was sold? 80%. Okay? So what will that tell us? Out of that 30,000 total markup on the shipments, how much have we earned? How much has the home office earned? How much has the home office has realized? It should also only be 80%. Okay? How much is the total markup? 30. When will this 30 be, when can this entire 30 be considered earned? Only if the entire shipment was sold. But was the entire shipment sold? No, only 80%. So what does that tell us? We are only able to earn or realize 80% of the markup. How much was the total markup? 30. How much have we earned? 80%. So how much is 30,000 times 80%? That will give you 24,000. Okay. So if you're asked, how much have you earned out out of the total markup? How much have you earned? Our answer would be 24,000. How else can that be asked? Possible question would be, how much is the markup on the cost of goods sold of the branch? Again, if in this problem you are asked how much is the cost, how much is the markup on the cost of goods sold of the branch, our answer would be 24,000. Third way for the 24,000 to be asked is that how much would be the adjustment to the allowance account at the end of the year? Again, if you're asked for the adjustment to the allowance account, that is simply the markup on the cost of goods sold. That is simply the amount that was already earned or realized. So if you're asked how much is the adjustment to the allowance account at the end of the year, your answer would also be 24,000. What would be the adjusting entry there? Debit, allowance for overvaluation, and credit, branch income. Okay. So how much was the total markup again? 30,000. What happened to the 24? It was already sold. It was already realized. So what do you think happened to the 6,000 plus? It is still unrealized, correct? So that means it will still go together with the inventory. And where can we find that? It will be part of your ending inventory. So what does that mean? The 6,000 would be the markup on the ending inventory of the branch. Okay, so if you will be asked how much is the markup on the ending inventory of the branch in this problem, your answer would be 6,000. Okay, but that's not the question in this problem. Okay, let's continue. Although the inventory was correctly counted and reported, the branch did not tell the home office that this portion of the remaining goods came from transfers. Consequently, the Home Office assumed that all of the transferred merchandise had been sold to outside parties. What is the resulting impact on the net income reported by the company as a whole? So, what does this mean? The Home Office thought that the entire 30,000 was already realized. Okay? But is that the case? No. How much was realized only out of the entire 30,000? 24,000. Okay? So the profit of the branch should be adjusted by only 24,000. But what did the Home Office do? It was increased or adjusted by 30,000. Pilay sakto class, what's the correct amount of additional income of the branch? 24,000. But what was recorded by the Home Office? 30,000. So what do you think would be the effect of the mistake by the Home Office to the combined profit class? Overstated by 6,000. Let's proceed to problem 12-15. Question here is before closing. What does that mean? What's the significance of that phrase? Profit or loss have not yet been recognized. What is the balance of the shipments to branch on the Home Office books? Okay. And also it makes sense, class, because if it's after closing, what will happen to the shipments to branch account? It will become zero. Okay, because it's a nominal account. Okay, what is the balance of the shipment to the branch account on the Home Office books? And there may be a lot of information given here, but the approach here is very simple, class. The problem gives us our shipments from Home Office. Can you see the 151,200? Okay, and what are we being asked? We are asked for the shipments to branch. Is there a relationship between your shipments from Home Office and your shipments to branch? Yes. Every time there's a shipment from the Home Office to the Home Office will record shipments to branch while the branch will record shipments from Home Office. Okay, but why will they not be equal, class? Because the shipments to branch is always recorded at the true cost, while the shipments from Home Office is always recorded at the billed price. But can we use the 151,200 to arrive at the shipments from Home Office? Sorry, can we use the 151,200 to get the shipments to branch? Yes. We just get the true cost of the 151,200. So what do? We use the 40%. What does the 40% represent, class? This is the markup rate. So we expect the 40% to be the difference between the shipments to branch and the shipments from Home Office. Remember, the difference between the shipments to branch and the shipments from Home Office would simply be the markup. Okay? So what do? We divide 151,200 by 40%. How much will that give you? 100? And that is already our answer, correct? Why? Why before we have to multiply it by 40%? Before we were looking for the markup. In this case, what are we looking for? We're looking for the cost. And the 108,000 is already the cost. Okay, so there's a follow-up question in problem 12-16. Before you answer problem 12-16, I want you to compute for the branch profit class to be reported by the branch, okay, as far as the branch is concerned. So meaning, ignore the true cost. If it's from the perspective of the branch, solve it from the records of the branch. Where do we begin? Sales of 270. And then, are we given with our ending inventory in this problem? Yes. December 31 inventory is 25,200. That means we can solve for our cost of goods sold. Okay, so where do we begin in computing for our cost of goods sold, class? Start with beginning inventory. Okay, do not forget your beginning inventory. Beginning inventory is 28,350. Then add what? 100 shipments from home office in the amount of 151,200. 28,350. And then you have shipments from home office 151,000. Then you add, if you add the two, you would get how much class? 100. How do we call the 179,550? Total goods available for. Then deduct what? Ending inventory of 25,000. This will give you 154,350. But by the way, class, aren't we supposed to add purchases? Is it possible that we will be adding purchases in solving for Tigas? Yes. But we do not have purchases from outside vendors in this problem. Okay, what does the problem say? The branch purchases all of its merchandise from the home office. Okay. But I do not want you to think that our cost of goods sold will always just be beginning plus shipments. Okay, there may be purchases from outside vendors. And if that happens, the computation would be a lot more complicated. So how do we call the 154,350? The cost of goods sold. Okay, then you deduct that from your sales of 270. That would give you 115,650. Is that the profit class? Uh, that would be, you will have to deduct expenses of 90,000. How much will that give you? How much class? 6,750. 12,000. This is the profit of the branch as far as the branch is concerned. Okay? Now solve 12-16. I want you to solve this one by using the true cost for everything class. We already have the sales of 270, correct? Okay. Then we need to solve for our cost of goods sold. Okay, we begin with the beginning inventory 28,200 350. But what's wrong with the 28,350? That includes a markup. Solve for the true cost of the 28,350 class. 28,350 divided by 140. Where did we get the 40 given in the problem? How much? 20,200. Can I ask for a paper? Thank you. Two 250 class. Next, the shipments to branch we solved before, which is 108,000. Okay, which was 151,200 divided by 140%. You add this, you would get 128,250. Or alternatively, class, simply divide 179,550 by 140%. Okay, that should still give you 128,250. And then deduct the true cost of the ending inventory. 25,200 divided by 140% will give you how much? 18,000. So 128,250 minus 18,000 would 110,250. Then deduct this from the 270 class. This would give you 159,750, and then deduct the expenses of 90,000. How much will that give you, class? 69,000. 750. So that would be the true branch profit class. Okay? Now I want you to get the difference between the two class. The profit of the branch as reported by the branch and the profit of the branch as far as the home office is concerned. How much is the difference between these two? How much? 44. Okay. And where can we get this 44,100 class? This is actually just the markup on branch cost of goods sold. How much was the cost of goods sold of the branch class? How much was the cost of goods sold of the branch? 154,350. Divide that by 140% class. Divide that by 140%. You would get 110,250. Multiply that by 40%. Okay. So that means you may take this down. True branch profit is equal to profit reported by the branch plus markup on branch cost of goods sold. The true branch profit or the branch profit from the perspective of the home office is simply the profit as reported by the branch plus the markup on branch cost of goods sold. Okay, how much was the profit reported by the branch? 25,650. Okay, and then how much was the markup on the branch cost of goods sold? It's the 44,100. Okay, how else can we solve the 44,100 class? The same, you get the markup on the components of your cost of goods sold. Class, this is the build price of the beginning inventory. This is the true cost of the beginning inventory. So that means the markup is 8,100. Please help me here. Is it 8,100? Okay. And then the build price of the shipments is 151,200, and then the true cost is 108,000. So this would give us 43,200. 43. You add this two, you would get 51, which should be the difference between these two guys. Okay. And then the build price of the ending inventory is 25,200. The true cost is 18,000. That means the markup is 7,200. And this should also give you 44,100. And I prefer that you solve it this way, class. You start with the markup in the beginning, plus markup on shipments, minus markup on ending, to get the markup on your cost of goods sold. So that it will work, even if the markup rate is different from the current year and the last year. Pero why will it work, class, if you simply divide 154,350 by 140% and multiply it by 40%? Because the markup rate this year and last year are the same. But if they are not the same, it's better to independently get the components of your cost of goods sold. Okay? So, very common question, true branch profit. The difference is simply to add, or the procedure is to simply add the markup and the branch cost of goods sold to the profit reported by the branch. Okay. Let's just try to exhaust this problem. One other possible question. What was the beginning balance of the allowance account? What was the beginning balance of the allowance account? What was the January 1 balance of the allowance account? What does it mean if you're asked for the beginning balance of the allowance? You're asked to look for the markup on the beginning inventory. How much was the beginning inventory? 28,350. How much is the markup on the 28,350? It's the 8,100. Okay. Uh, Another possible question. How much was the balance of the allowance before adjustments? How much was the unadjusted balance of the allowance for overvaluation account? And if you're asked for the unadjusted or before adjustment balance, what does that mean? You're asked to solve for the markup on the tigas. And how much is the markup on your tigas? 51,300. If you're asked how much is the adjustment to the allowance account during the year, or how much allowance was earned or realized during the year, what does that mean? You are asked to solve for the markup on the cost of goods sold. And your answer would be 44,100. And then last question, how much is the ending balance of the allowance? How much is the ending balance of the allowance account? What does the ending balance of the allowance represent? It represents the markup on the ending inventory. So how much is the ending inventory? 25,200. The true cost is 18,000. So again, if you're asked how much is the ending balance, or how else can that be asked? How much is the adjusted balance of the allowance? Again, how much is the adjusted balance of the allowance? How much is the ending balance of the allowance? How much is the those two? If you're asked for those two, they mean you need to determine the markup on the ending inventory. So again, how much is the adjusted balance of the allowance? How much is the balance of the allowance at the end of the year? Our answer would be 7,200. Okay.